G'day. Today I'm coming back to a video. I did this in response to comment 163's question about throttle endpoint adjustment using the Futaba T4GRS remote. I did post a video on this a few weeks back saying I couldn't get it to work. Since then I've discovered I was partly wrong. You can actually change the throttle settings and tie them to the little knob here so that you can limit the throttle position based on the position of that knob. I've got my trusty GT Falcon, my T4GRS. I'm going to throttle it up. As you can see, I've got full throttle there. If I switch this switch up here, I now have a restricted mode. That works on the fly. I can have the throttle wide open, flip the switch and go to full throttle, flip the switch again and the throttle is restricted. I can also have the throttle open, wind the sensitivity of that up and down to my lowest, which is there. The better answer to your question than what I gave you last time, comment. Yes, to a certain extent you can. There is a big however, and the however is I am not controlling the throttle endpoints. What I am controlling is the position of the throttle being transmitted to the device, and that position of that throttle is being limited or restricted based on the position of this switch. So you can see here that channel 3 is moving up and down based on the knob on DL1. And if I flip that switch up here, then the position of channel 2 alters in proportion to the position of DL1. What that does mean is that if I have the car in reverse mode or reverse on mode, if I left the stick in the neutral position right now, as you can see on the controller here, there is a reverse bias being sent to the car. The car will actually run the motor in reverse. Unlike when I made my previous video, I have been through this manual backwards and forwards several times trying to find a way to actually adjust the endpoints of the throttle by the flick of that switch. In my search, I have found no possible way to adjust the endpoints on the fly aside from the solution that I offered in that previous video, which is to make two different profiles for your car or tank, one with a full range of throttle and one which is a safe mode that has the limited throttle. If you want to bind the channel like I've done here, this is how you do it. You use the little joystick to go into the menu. Up the top here, and this is where I was completely ignorant, it says up the top here menu 1, and that should have been a dead giveaway. I never put 2 and 2 together. It wasn't until I went through this manual that I found out you can just simply click to the right there, and that brings up menu page 2. And in menu page 2, there is all sorts of additional settings. There are settings for 4-wheel steering setups, for dual ESC setups, for controlling your gyro. Interestingly, there are setups for the switch and dial. If you go into that switch and dial, you can actually change the bindings of the little trim switches. You can change the magnifier. So under here where DT2 is a throttle trim, you can actually set that number higher or lower. Anyway, the point I need to get to, go all the way down to where it says switch dial, and on here you can actually say, what do I want the dial 1 to be? I would like, in this case, dial 1 to be set onto channel 3. The division here is how much it moves the bar up and down per click. Okay, I've got that currently set on 2, and you can also change the direction of motion by normal and reverse here. I've then set switch 2 to program mix. This is what turns on and off my function that limits the throttle on the fly. This can be switched up and down between a few different modes: idle, ABS, neutral brake, off, etc. I'm leaving it on program mix. So that's the first setting. That's the switch dial page. Now that you've done that, you can click on the return, and then you can go up to the program mix. What you're seeing on here is what is the mixing that you want to program in. So in this case, you'll see it says mode on. If I move this switch, you'll see the mode is on or off, depending on where that switch is. Basically, what I've done is I've changed the throttle up value to be -60. That is what brings in the limiter. I'm not quite sure of the algorithm that actually I've programmed in here, but setting this value at -60 means that as I wind this knob, the value of the throttle is being limited. Channel 3 is our master value. The slave value is the throttle. If you go down the list here, the master channel here is channel 3. The slave channel is the throttle. I've got the mix mode set to off, if that indeed is what MXMND stands for. I've got the up value set at -60. That has given me the results I demonstrated earlier on. Menu number 2, which I was ignorant of, has quite a lot of additional functionality that you can get out of your T4GRS. Comet, thanks for asking that question and giving me not one but 2 videos that I've now put together trying to answer it. I'm sure there are other people out there that might like to know as well. I have been through that. I have spent hours in and out of the menus on this. The 2 solutions that I have offered up in those 2 videos, that's all I've been able to come up with. That's it for today. See you later.